As Nissan's first ever crossover all the way back in 2004, the Murano basically set the trend. It set the benchmark in the midsize SUV segment, and it really allowed for a lot of other manufacturers to copy Nissan because this thing became an instant sales success. Now, of course, 15 years later, the market has really grown over the years, which has forced Nissan to make significant changes to the Murano. So this week, they've sent me over their latest refreshed version. This is the 2019 Murano Platinum. But the big question I want answered, is this crossover still the benchmark of the midsize segment? That's what we're here to find out. So if you guys remember the first generation Murano, it was pretty avant-garde in its design. Nothing else really looked like it because it was the first generation of the CUVs, of the crossover craze, and it became an instant hit because Nissan moved over 100,000 units annually. So if you guys go to the third generation model, which by the way, when this came out back in 2015, some people either loved or hated the looks. I really didn't like the looks. I think it kind of looked like a bloated whale from certain angles, but you can see this third generation Murano adopted a lot of the current Nissan design language for this new generation. You can see the V-Motion grille is right there at the front. They've made it larger over the years and they tweaked it slightly for this 2019 refresh. The headlights, they're now full LED headlights are on the Muranos. You have an LED turn signal, LED daytime running lights, you have the LED low and high beam, and then even LED fog lights. So that's a nice upgrade that they gave us. It looks kind of similar to the same kind of refresh that they put on the Maxima. This deep blue color also on this particular one looks really nice. There's some chrome trim here and there. And really what the Murano is missing is like a sport package. I would like to see them offer like an SR version to make this thing look a little bit more youthful, maybe a little bit more masculine. As it sits now, it still looks a little bloated to me. I'm not the biggest fan of the looks, but the refreshed model does look better than the pre-refreshed models, and I also like it in this blue color. Now, when you look at the wheels, you can see Nissan has updated the wheels across all the trims. An 18-inch wheel is going to be standard. The SL and Platinum trims will have a 20-inch wheel on 235/55 series tires. Again, that's kind of going in line with all the rest of the competitors. I like the midnight graphite finish you get on the Platinum trim. The SL will have a slightly different finish with like a machine, inner gray spoke. Now the Murano is one of the bigger SUVs in the segment. This is about 192.6 inches long, about 2 inches longer than the current and new Honda Passport, but an inch shorter than the new Blazer. Its wheelbase is at 111 inches long, matches that of the Passport. So this is again 6 to 8 inches longer than a compact SUV like a Toyota RAV4 or Nissan's own Rogue. This is the reason why you go to this. You want something that's a little bit more spacious and a little bit bigger footprint. Now the Murano was also one of the first vehicles to introduce this floating roof design, which again, it's something that all the other vehicles have really adopted. It's a trend styling element. The roof rails on the roof there are silver paint. They're kind of a slimmer design. And you can really tell the Murano looks a lot lower than a lot of vehicles. Compared to the Passport, this one looks like it strictly belongs on the road, whereas Honda tries to go with, an SUV, more rugged approach. Now at the rear, you can see the taillights have been refreshed again. They're a full LED taillight. With a clear lens design. You have an LED turn signal. You have some more chrome trim at the lower area. There's these nicely integrated parking sensors, and then Nissan does a dual exhaust outlet underneath here with a rectangular tip. It still comes with the company's 3.5 liter V6 engine. Now, of course, a power liftgate is going to be included on this particular trim. It's that hands-free power liftgate if you guys go for this higher trim. And the Murano's cargo capacity isn't class leading. It used to be, but when you have all the seats up, you're looking at around 37.8 cubic feet of space. If you want to fold down the second row, which by the way, this vehicle does not offer a third row, you get around 74 cubic feet of space. You can actually fold it down from back here. There's a nice little handle that allows you to fold the seats down. It's actually spring loaded. So I really like how it's easy to fold the seats down, and it gives you a nearly flat floor. Compared to the new Passport, this has roughly about 5 cubic feet less. The Passport has around almost 80 cubic feet, but compared to the new Blazer, that only has 64 cubic feet of space. So that this is significantly more than the Blazer. Underneath here, Nissan actually gives you a temporary spare tire, so you don't have to deal with a fix-a-flat kit. So moving on to the interior of the new Murano, let me first talk about the key fob for this vehicle. You guys have seen this key before. Nissan's been using it for years. I've complained about the key for many, many years. It's the typical intelligent access key with remote start, with your lock-unlock button. When you keep the key fob on you, you can approach the exterior door handle of the Murano. You can see there's a button. Just touch that button. It'll unlock the door for you. If you want to unlock it, you have to also touch the button again. Now, looking at the interior of this particular Platinum model, you can see this is very reminiscent of Infinitis. I mean, I get a very luxury car vibe. Although it is very dated, it does make a good first impression, especially this platinum trim with these leather seats with the contrasting stitching, the piping. I like the tan combination with the black dashboard and steering wheel. You can see the quilted leather is definitely a nice upgrade that you get with the platinum. They are heated and cooled with a 12-way power adjustment. The seats, the leather feels very soft and supple, so that's great. You have two-person memory on the door, as you can see, which is definitely going to make a great first impression. Now getting inside, all you have to do is just push the button to fire up the engine. Nissan puts it down there. And you can see the gauges do a really nice sweep. The power tilt telescoping steering wheel is a nice addition. And the gauges haven't really changed. These look like the same gauges that we saw on the previous refresh models or the pre-refresh models. The rest of this interior, you can see you have a very open and airy feel. The dashboard does sit a little bit higher. You have the 8-inch Nissan Connect infotainment system with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And overall, I like the way the gauges look. They are easy to read, but you know, some competitors are doing an all LCD display. Now you can see the materials on the dashboard here. You can see it's a soft touch graining material. It is hard touch plastic on the upper portion with some silver painted plastic trim. There's some real stitching over the instrument panel hood, which is nice. The steering wheel is also very supple. The door panel materials, you can see it has that same ribbon of faux wood with a chrome door handle. The soft touch door panel materials are nice. You have a one touch up down for the front windows, not the rear windows. You have a nice little padded area here where you could rest your elbows. It is hard touch plastic on this lower area here, but it does give you some additional storage. You can see there are buttons over here for the heated steering wheel, the Nissan Safety Shield System 360, and then your dimmer switch. I mean, and overall the cabin over here definitely makes a nice first impression. Now coming back to the center stack, you can see this is the Nissan Connect infotainment system. It's a good size. I like that it's nicely integrated into the dash. If you guys don't like that tablet style screens, this is going to look nice. It has a menu button over here that shows you all your usual display sources. You can see there's the CarPlay, which has pretty good graphics. You can see there's Google Maps, there's Waze. Click that Nissan thing to take you back to the Nissan system. You can see there's the Nissan GPS head unit. You can see it's been slightly updated. It is relatively quick. It works like a tablet. It has the pinch zoom capability. Most of you are probably going to be using the Apple CarPlay anyways. Push that camera button. You can see it'll give you a 360 camera. This is part of the Platinum package. The graphics themselves are okay. It could use a little bit of work. Going back to the menu display over there, you can see audio will take you over to your usual audio sources. You can see I like the way Nissan has the presets laid out where it shows you some album art. The quickness of the response for the touchscreen is also very good. I think a lot of people are going to get into this and they're going to pretty much know how to use it. And I think that's very important with the simplicity. Now you can see there's dual zone automatic climate control, which is nice. I like the volume and the tuning knob. I like how Nissan's keeping knobs. You can see the transmission. This is controlling the Xtronic CVT. It's a very traditional lever, no paddles on the wheel. I do have a manual mode down there. I like how Nissan is keeping it very traditional. These dials over here control the heated and cooled seats. I like how Nissan actually uses a dial where it gives you 3 different levels. The wood definitely looks faux. There's some more silver painted plastic. There's some cup holders there. The padded armrest here is also very nice. You have good storage in there for your center console. Your USB, your 2 USB ports are there. There is one USB-C that it was updated for the 2019 model year. You can see this pano sunroof is one of the largest in the industry. It lets in a lot of light. The Murano was one of the first to introduce a pano sunroof. You can't get that on things like a Passport, keep that in mind. So this is definitely nice. There is a power shade that will open and close if you guys don't want the sun beating down on you, but the shade or the glass is tinted. You can see there is a sunglass holder there. There's LED map lighting in the overhead space. The seats, I find them to be very soft, comfortable, and supportive. Love the quilted leather part. Love how they're heated and cooled. On longer trips, you'll be really comfortable. The glove compartment you can see here is damped, lined with felt. It's a good size. So overall, the inside of the Murano still very pleasant, has most of the tech that you're looking for. It's roomy in here, and if you guys don't like the traditional or the newer tablet style screens, you're going to really appreciate what Nissan has to offer in this car. So hopping into the back seat of the Murano, you can see this is Nissan's midsize offering, so you better believe that they threw in a little bit more space into the back seat versus a Rogue. There's about 39 inches of legroom back here. You can see the floor is almost completely flat. This is very competitive with the segment, almost the most in the segment really. The Passport is really what offers more space. This is more than the Blazer, and really you have a really nice amount of features back here and openness and airiness. I especially like the panoramic sunroof that that lets in a lot of lights. It's not quite as big as some of the competition like the new Blazer, but it does brighten up the cabin. The materials back here, you can see you have a soft touch material in the back, more of that wood grain trim. Now in terms of features, you get 2 level heated seats, you get 2 USB ports, you have rear seat air vents, which is definitely nice. You have an armrest that folds down here to give you 2 cup holders, a little bit of storage, and you can see these back seats, they actually do recline. You can recline them forward, you can recline them back, but they do not actually slide forward. Some competitors like the Passport offer you the ability to do that, but really if you guys are looking to fit a child seat back here or full-size adults, you'll be able to do that easily in the new Murano. So under the hood of the 2019 Murano, Nissan also didn't make any changes, and I kind of think a few changes were needed. You're still only going to get one engine choice. It's the company's signature 3.5 liter VQ35DE motor. So this is the old V6 without direct injection or the high rev capability that you get in some of the Infiniti products. It still makes 260 horsepower and 240 foot-pounds of torque. Now those numbers used to be competitive. It's a little bit more than what you get in the Edge with the turbo 4-cylinder, but the Passport and the Blazer have about 20 to 40 more horsepower than this Murano's V6. I'm surprised because Nissan has a direct injection version in the Pathfinder, but they didn't put it in this vehicle. Now it only goes out through an Xtronic CVT transmission. It's Nissan's latest CVT, and the towing capacity for an SUV is pretty weak. Nissan rates this to tow only a maximum of 2,000 pounds. The new Passport, for example, tows a maximum of 5,000 pounds. So to keep that in mind, if you guys are looking to tow, this is not the vehicle to do it in. Now, as it sits, this car weighs around 4,100 pounds, and fuel economy, because it's a CVT, actually is better than the competition. It's rated at 20 in the city, 28 on the highway. That's regardless of whether you go for front or all-wheel drive. Now with the CVT, with all-wheel drive, let's get out on the road and see how this performs. So it's been a few years since I drove the current generation Nissan Murano. Remember, this car came out all the way in 2015, so it was overdue for a refresh. And I have to say, you know, Nissan made a very subtle change to this car in terms of the powertrain, in terms of the transmission, in terms of the rest of the driving characteristics. It's kind of largely left unchanged. And if you guys look at the Murano, Nissan's always tried to compare this thing to a Lexus RX 350. It's basically a Lexus RX 350 that's significantly less expensive. Nissan will say it's like, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 less expensive. And I have to say, compared to the Lexus, the Murano does not have the same kind of refinement. It all really comes down to the engine, because the engine isn't as smooth as the Lexus V6. That's a buttery engine. I consider that to be, you know, very much the benchmark in terms of refinement and smoothness. The CVT transmission in this car, while I will say it is more responsive than the 8-speed automatic in the last Lexus RX 350 I drove, a lot of people just kind of stick their nose up with a CVT because whenever you put your foot down, it just makes that horrible like noise. But I have to say, it is effective. This car is responsive. It's not fast. The Murano's actually become the slowest entry in the mid-size CUV segment. Remember, this used to just be the Murano and the Edge for a while, and now we've got the new Passport, which has more horsepower. It's significantly quicker. The Blazer has more horsepower, a lot more horsepower, significantly quicker. The Edge now comes with a 2-liter turbo 4. The V6 is optional, a twin-turbo V6, and this has pretty much one of the least horsepower in the segment, except for the base Edge 2-liter, which has 250 horsepower. This car in general, while it isn't sluggish, you see here I put my foot down, the CVT is really snappy and it actually will mimic gear changes, which is nice. And then when you get it up to highway speeds, the Murano remains relatively quiet. It doesn't have very much in terms of road noise. I hear a little bit of wind noise creeping in through these parts of the pillar here, but the ride quality is so soft. Even these 20-inch wheels on this car, it's just pillowy soft. It actually makes the Murano feel a little bit bulbous to me. This feels heavy, big, and wide, which is not what I particularly like. It doesn't have the really nice, you know, European, you know, solid feel that I typically like. But, you know, compared to the Passport and the Blazer, they just feel more sharp. They feel more sporty. This feels kind of ponderous the way an Edge or a current generation Explorer does. The visibility in the Murano also, you know, isn't really the best. The hood has a weird shape to it, and it sits up a little bit higher than I would like. The pillar here is big. The view out of the back is okay, but the window is small. So again, what really saves the saving grace is the big side mirrors with the blind spot monitoring or cross traffic alert. You have the Nissan Safety Shield 360, which is only standard on this model. You do have automatic emergency braking as standard, but if you want things like lane departure alert, where it vibrates the wheel when I cross the lane, or adaptive cruise control, stop and go, you have to go for the higher trim. So Nissan doesn't offer it as, you know, full standard like they do in the Honda and Toyota competition. I mean, overall, this is a great car for commuting, for long trips. You're going to really like that. But if you guys are looking for the sportier option, the Murano is not the one that you'd want. It also, you know, can feel a little bit big and ponderous, which again, if you want something that feels a little bit, you know, easier to drive. This is not difficult to drive by any means. It's just when you drive it with the competition, it just kind of feels like a big Rogue. It feels like a heavier and bigger Rogue. Now let's take this exit ramp here, and you want to slow down a lot because it's got a very softly sprung suspension, but you know, the steering is very numb, devoid of feel. It's light, and ooh, you feel that body lean. Most people are not going to take corners in their Murano this way, but again, I have to test it to show you guys the differences. I kind of wish that Nissan would go, you know, a little bit more of a sportier route with the next generation model, especially if they want to go after Lexus. I mean, even Lexus doesn't feel this ponderous anymore, and that's really annoying. You can turn off the GPS's prompts whenever there's traffic or construction and whatnot, but once you start getting a feel for the Murano, you start to get used to the heaviness of it, though. I will admit that. But it just doesn't have much feedback to the steering wheel, so you kind of have to remind yourself you're in a big 4,100-pound crossover. My foot is to the floor here in the CVT. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. And you're going to get to 60 in around 7.5 seconds in this car, which is a full second slower than the new Honda Passport, around a second slower than the Blazer as well. So Nissan could work on the acceleration. The V6 in this car is the older V6. They've got a newer V6 that has direct injection in the Pathfinder that has like another 25 more horsepower or 28 more horsepower. So I'm surprised that Nissan didn't shove that motor into this refreshed Murano. Now the one thing with this CVT combination and this naturally aspirated V6, it does get good gas mileage, 20 in the city, you know, 28 on the highway, 23 combined. That is 2 mpg better than what you get in the Passport. And in my week's worth of testing, I've been averaging just a smidge under 25 miles to the gallon in mostly city driving. That CVT, again, very efficient on the highway. I did get it up to 29 mpg, almost 30 mpg, so very good gas mileage. So that's the trade-off that you have to make with this CVT. It's not the most, you know, enjoyable to drive and accelerate in, but you know, you do get better gas mileage, and for those of you who don't care, you're going to really prefer the better gas mileage aspect, and this car is still relatively comfortable. It's still relatively luxurious feeling. It has most of the modern tech features. I just would like to see Nissan go in a completely different direction with the new Murano, which, you know, they are going to be working on a new generation of vehicles soon. The Rogue is probably the next vehicle that's going to be redesigned next, but, you know, as it sits, this 2019 model, I have trouble choosing it over something like the new Passport, the current Ford Edge, or the, you know, Chevrolet Blazer, which the Blazer is expensive, which we'll talk about the pricing of this vehicle as we go into the conclusion.
So as you guys know, the first generation Murano was a pretty hot car. When it came out, a lot of manufacturers scrambled to offer something similar because it moved over 100,000 units every year. Now, unfortunately for Nissan, the segment has changed over the years where it actually shrunk a little bit because Honda and Toyota exited the market, but now we have a new Passport, a new Blazer, we've got the current generation Edge, which is still a strong offering. So where does that leave the Murano? Now, earlier in the video, I asked if this was still the benchmark, and after spending a week driving this thing, I'm sad to report that it no longer feels like a benchmark. It no longer is the most luxurious offering, it's no longer the sportiest, it's no longer the sleekest, and it really just falls into a middle-of-the-road feel for me. It's still very easy to drive, it's very comfortable, it's still very practical.
Out of the 4 offerings that I consider to be the main competition, but really that's the only strength I can see with the Murano, because the rest of the car is just a little too blah for me. I'm not really a big fan of the styling. Now, if you guys are interested in purchasing one of these vehicles, what's it going to cost? The Murano still starts at around $31,400, so it's actually a little bit cheaper than the new Passport, but it's more expensive than an Edge, which is like around $30,000, and the Blazer, which is around $28,000. But the Blazer, that's for like a base model with a 4-cylinder and front-wheel drive, so kind of keep that in mind. This Platinum version is the most expensive Murano. Now, if you guys want all-wheel drive, it's $1,800 extra. The Platinum version starts at around $45,000 plus destination. Because this is the most loaded out version, there's really nothing to add. This one with destination is around $46,500. Now, that does make it about $2,000 more expensive than the new Passport, which compared to the Passport feels and drives a little bit sportier. It's got more ground clearance and it looks a little bit more rugged, although this just looks more like it was designed for the urban environment.
And really, the only justification I can give for the increase in price is that pano sunroof, which is basically $2,000 more than the Passport. So if you really like stuff about the Passport and you want a pano sunroof and you don't really care about the off-road credentials that the Passport gives you, the Murano may very well still be worth a look. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2019 Nissan Murano Platinum. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please be sure to subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel so you can keep track of all our latest videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.